Okay, good morning. As we go to the Chitas of today, the Chumash of today, today is Monday, we're holding the second reading, the portion of Chayesara, chapter 23, verse number 17. Vayakum stay Ephraim Asher b'Machpelah. In the field of Ephraim, which was in the Machpelah, Asher lefnei Mamre, facing Mamre Asada, the field, Ba'amora Shaboy, and the cave that was in this field, and all the trees that were in the field, in its, which is within its entire border, which was around the Ma'ara, which was around the cave. Yaakov actually said, but Yaakov, we mean it rose. It experienced an elevation. That's what the pasuk means. For it left the possession of a simple person and went to possession of a king. Simple meaning of the verse is the field and the cave and everything within it, and all the trees were established to Avram as a possession. Because Vayakum, the Rashi is bothered with the word Vayakum and stood up. I mean, it doesn't. Verse 18, Avram lemikne became to Avram as a possession. Leini bnei Ches, with the children of Ches, l'chol bar shari ilay, to all those that came to the city. Rashi says, in the midst of them all and the presence of them all. So this was a public sale, so to say, and everybody knew about it. There was no secret, and it became Avram Avinu's possession. And then after that, Avram buried Sarah. Amara says to this cave, to the field of Machpelah, Mamre. The face of Mamre, he Chevron, which is Chevron, and it's Canaan, the land of Canaan. This Shabbos, thousands upon thousands of Jews go to Chevron to be Shabbos, Pashas Chayesara, in by the Ma'aras Machpelah. 50, 60,000 Jews go there. In the field and the cave and everything that was there established to Avram Avinu. Achuzas kever, it became a burial property. Beis b'nei Ches, from the sons of Ches. Chapter 24, verse number 1. Avram Zakam Baba Yam, and Avram was old, he came with his days. Hashem Beirach as Avram Bakel, and Avram Avinu was blessed with everything. And Ashter Bakel Olam Mater Ben. What's the word Bakel? What means in everything? So you can say that he had a Bakel as Mater Ben. He had he had a son. And since he had a son, he had to find him a wife. Avram said to his servant, the Kambese, the elder of his house, Eliezer, which was the ruler of everything that he had. He placed her hand on my thigh. She says, Zakim Bese. I'm sorry, the word, since Zakin is a constructive state, is vowelized as Zikan basic. Tachas Yerechi, Rashi says, since one wants to swear must take his hand an article related to a mitzvah. Usually we take a Torah or tefillin and make a vow on a Torah. And circumcision was the only mitzvah he had. He only had the circumcision is a mitzvah. So he told him, and he fulfilled it with pain. It was dear to him. So he said, touch my thigh. And it's as if you're touching my mitzvah and you will do the vow on a mitzvah. Verse number 3, I'll make you vow in the name of God. The God of the heavens and the God of the earth. I don't want you to take a wife for me, for my son, from the daughters of Canaan. I don't want my son Yitzchak to marry one of the girls of Canaan. He needs to go and marry somebody else. You need to go, and he cannot go there because Yitzchak could not leave Israel. So I want to get him a wife from my family. I want you to go back to Aram to those days, or these days it's Iraq, and I want you to go there, and I want you to get him a wife from there. It said the service sent it. What happens if I go there? And the girl is not going to want to go with me. Not going to leave her family. Should I take your son and bring him there? Avram said, no, beware, at least you return my son there. Yitzhak cannot leave Israel. Cannot. The Lord, the God of heavens, who's taking me out from my father's house. Malati from my land of my birth. Ashadibali, who spoke to me, Vashad Nishbali, who made a promise to me. Lema. Made a promise that to your offspring I'll give you this land. He'll send an angel before you. You'll find a wife. Don't worry, God will take care of you. You will find a wife for him there. Rashi says we did not say God of the earth, to the God of the heavens over here. We're above in verse number 3. He said, I made a vow with the God of the heavens, the God of the earth. He said to him, now that the God of the heavens and the God of the earth is because I made him familiar in the mouths of people. But when he took me from my father's house, he was only the God of the heavens, but not the God of the earth. I brought God to the world because mankind did not acknowledge him, and his name was not familiar in the earth. So therefore, he was only Elokei Hashamayim. When I left my father's house, God was the God of the heavens, but not the God of the earth. Beis Avi, with my father's house, Bechoran. Me'eretz Malati, Ur Kasdim. I believe in the Iraq area. Ashadibali, L'tzarchi, means concerning me. Dibber spoke to me similar to every loy li olahem used in conjunction with the word dibber. Speak is to interpret the sense of al, concerning. That's not per se that he spoke to me, but concerning about me. And there are make translation alay and aluai alai. Because if we're in conjunction with dibber, the use of the word li, loy, li, olahem is inappropriate. But rather Elav, Eli, Alehem are used. And the Aramaic translation would be Imahem, Imi. I will, however, found the expression Amida, Li, Loi, Li Lahem is appropriate. It's the grammar. How you put, which words you put to which letters. Emer, Diva, that's in Torah, you have two expressions of speech. Emer, Lahem, speak to them. And Daber Lahem, Alehem. You say Daba Alehem, speak on them, means about them. Verse number 8, if the woman doesn't want to go with you, then you are the vow is absolved. Rak is benila, you cannot bring him there, so therefore we'll have to get married. The girl over here. Rashi says, if they don't come from there, take him a wife from the daughters of honor, Eshkel and Mamre. Rak is beni. What means only my son? Rak is beni. Rak me too. When it says rak only, it comes to every minus is a plus. Beni ain't a chayzer. Yitzhak cannot go back. But Yaakov ben beni seif alauser. But Yaakov, the son of my father, the son of my son. My grandson, Yaakov, will go back to Haran. He'll go back to his uncle's house in Haran, but not Yitzchak. And the servant placed his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and he made a vow on this concept that he will go and find him a wife in Haran, and he would not take Yitzchak there. And that completes the Chumash of we are holding right now in the 29th letter of the Alter Rebbe. Very deep concept in Kabbalah. The Alter Rebbe now goes on to explain that in addition to the dysfunction of mitzvahs as garments for the soul, right? We mentioned that the mitzvahs are garments of the soul. They are a protection of the soul in this world, and there are protections of the soul in the Gan Eden, in the spiritual world, so that the neshama should be able to receive its gratification, the glory of God, it needs to have a garment to protect it. If not, it would disappear. To understand, when the neshama goes to the Maila, the neshama goes above, seemingly it disappears. Why? Because it comes part of the glory of God. It disappears. It loses its reality. It loses its identity. What keeps the soul's identity? That's the garments. The garments of the soul keeps the soul's identity lamaila. And now the soul can receive pleasure and keep its identity, who it is, in Gan Eden. So they serve as garments for the soul. They also serve to unite the sublime spiritual level of Kesed with the physical object with which the commandments are performed. Because you have to comprehend something. We always explain in Chassidus, Kabbalah is explained that the Torah is called wisdom. And the mitzvah is the Ratzon Elyon, the will of God. That means, and we have explained many times, that therefore the mitzvah, that's in a way a mitzvah might be higher than the Torah, because it connects to a much higher level than the Torah, which is seemingly a hard thing to understand, because wisdom is in your mind, and therefore Torah can come down from a very high place because it's not connected to physicality. It stays spirituality, even though it's in my mind. It's more a spiritual thing. A mitzvah is the opposite. A mitzvah comes down in a very physical thing. So how is it possible for the mitzvah to come down in a very physical thing? How can God's Ratzon come down in a physical reality? So that's why this mitzvah, the mitzvah is a garment to the soul, also to unite, and the mitzvah gives the capability, since we do the commandment, because that is the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So then even ultimately the physical thing that I'm doing the mitzvah, I put on tefillin today, that tefillin that I put on connects with the Ratzon of the Eibishter. It has the capability to really chachma. That's why chachma in Kabbalah is called her. It cannot come or shines everywhere equally, because it's really something above it. That's what the Torah is, a gift. But a mitzvah is something that I do in the physical world. So in essence, I connect the physicality to something that's extremely high. And that's why a mitzvah comes from someplace even higher. Because a mitzvah to come into the physical must come from someplace that's much higher and much more, so to say, spiritual than even the wisdom that we learn. And as such, they resemble pillars that connect the highest part of the house with the lowest part of the house. And that's the power of a mitzvah. So now this supernal will is termed and referred to by the Kabbalistic. In Kabbalah, it's referred to Kesed Elyon, the supreme crown. Kesed, and it's there. Kesed is, if you take the word Kesed, it equals up to 620. Kesed is 620. Is the 613 mitzvahs and the 7 rabbinical mitzvahs. So here you have the word Kesed. Kesed, the word Kesed in Kabbalah is symbolic to all 613 commandments. They're considered the 620 pillars of light. So the word Kesed 620 being the numerical code, the word Kesed. What does that mean? Marshall, take for an analogy, take a large brick house. So you have these pillars. Sometimes you go to these places, the pillars are humongous. They go extremely high. They connect the roof to the floor. So they are on top of the roof. If you want to have a roof that stands very high, you may have to make sure that it has something that is strong holding it from the ground to the roof. And those are the pillars. Today we became more technologically advanced. We can figure out how to keep a humongous roof with pillars not in the middle. Like you go to 770, you'll see pillars in the middle of the basic Knesset, because it needs to have pillars that go from the ground to the roof to keep up the upper floors. If not, they'll all come crumbling down. So this is they take a pillar. The pillar goes to the highest level. It comes down to the lowest level. The tzavim ba'aretz, they are standing on the ground. And the top of it is connected to the roof, thereby connecting the lowest part of the house with the highest part of the house. So, through precisely in the metaphorical speaking, Keser Elyon, the supernal Keser transcends the level of Chachma. It's only Keser. That's why Keser is called the pillars, because Keser, which is higher than wisdom, can go from the highest to the lowest. Keseris. Keser, the word Keser is related to Koteris. Keseris, for it surrounds and encompasses over the brain and the head. The brain and the head is a faculty of wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. So Keser goes higher than that. Keser Malchus, the crown of kingship. That makes the king, the crown of kingship, and the crown surrounds his head, and the crown is something that surrounds his whole body. In essence, it goes from the top of his head, so to say, and it goes to the bottom of his feet. The crown makes him the king. So to Keser Lamaila, the Keser, the crown above in Kabbalah is higher than Chachma, and it goes from the top to the bottom, and that's why Rotzin. That's why in Kabbalah, Keser is Rotzin will. Will goes from the top to the bottom. Welcome should say the Shalom Shalom and instant where the will of a person is, that's where he is. So wherever his will is everywhere. From his head to his toe. Supernal will is vested in the 613 commandments of the Torah. Mitzvah Torah resided in abundance. 613 commandments and the 7 rabbinical commandments. Which ultimately most of the mitzvahs is physical commandments, meaning their performance involves a physical action, which represents the lower or corporal aspect, the lowest 4 spiritual worlds, the world of Asiyah, the world of action. So the Ratzon of the Eibishter, only the Ratzon of God can come into a mitzvah and transform the physical to something spiritual. So 2 commandments where you verbalize your mouth, like learning Torah. Nevertheless, even though speech is more spiritual than physical action, they too belong to the category of practical action. When to halacha, speech is an action. That's whatever you say, you have to keep. Because speech in halacha is considered an action, even though speech to an action is more spiritual than action is more physical. Okay, Milan. As I just said, that's not Akima Svasa Vavamaisa. The Gemara says the movement of one's lip is regarding an act. And what a person says, especially in front of witnesses, that's what he's got to do. Even though I just said it. I said something. No, but saying is an action. And therefore you must have an obligation to do what you said. Even commandments relating to the thought or heart, there's a command regarding the love of God, are also considered physical acts in comparison to a spiritual reality. When a human being loves God, he's using his physical love. And that's why mitzvahs, once you're on a neshama in Gan Eden, you can't do any mitzvahs. You can learn Torah, but you can't do any mitzvahs because the mitzvahs was given to a human being in this world. Dafke. Only. Shuba Bechira, a human being in this world that has free choice. Lahatis Lavav L'Tayv, that he can turn his heart to good, and so on. The Alter Rebbe didn't want to say Kishas Hashem, turn his heart to bad. Mashenk and Hashem B'Loiguf, take the soul out of the body. Ain't so much time and stuff that you don't have commandments. There's no commandments anymore. Because there's no concept of a person doing something good or bad. He's totally divested from the body. He has no mitzvahs anymore. He's not obligated to commandments anymore. So what do you see? The mitzvah is something, only the mitzvah. Only the mitzvah is something that you can do in this world. Only only the mitzvah is something that can transform the physical world. Only the mitzvah, not all the learning, not all the philosophy. Only the mitzvah can change the world. Whereas the mitzvah has the capability, since it's the ratzon of the Eibusher, since it's the will of God, it has the capability from coming from the highest to the lowest. That's why the metaphor is given that a mitzvah is like a pillar. It's a pillar that goes from the world to the upper worlds. It's a pillar. Over here it's called Amudi Ur, a pillar of light. So it's a pillar of light that comes from the highest and it goes down to the lowest. It comes from the Ratzon and Elyon Baruch Hu, from the will of God, till it reaches till this physical world. Hey, now that metaphorically speaking, they are like the hollow pillars that encompass in God with the mitzvah, man's neshama, ruach, and nefesh. It's like a hollow pillar. You have to look at every mitzvah like a hollow pillar, and I enclose myself with this pillar. This pillar surrounds me. Every mitzvah I do, I'm surrounded by an oil. Whether I see it or not, I'm surrounded by this pillar of light. And this pillar of light connects me, the way I'm standing on this world, to the highest worlds that you can imagine. And not only these pillars, these are Mudi Ur, continue to put, as after 120 years that my neshama goes lamaila, these pillars continue to protect me. Truth is, every night, the pillars continue to protect you as my neshama also goes lamaila. And by the way of these pillars of mitzvahs is nefesh, ruach, and neshama, which is 3 levels of the soul, ascend to the highest levels, to the bound up with the bound of life. That's what you see on every matzeva. What did we write? Tia nafshe tzura b'tzera chaim. May your soul be bound with the bond of life. What bonds his soul with the bond of life? Every good deed that he did. Every mitzvah that he did in this world binds his soul with the bond of life. And you can never take that mitzvah away from him. That bond is there forever. And every aspect I do, I become bonded with the Eibusher. Not the way the Eibusher comes into any kind of I'm bonded with the essence of God, because I'm bonded with the ratzon of God, which is the mitzvah. I'm bonded with the ratzon, with the will of God. And that's why everybody needs to learn Torah, but not everybody will merit the understanding of Torah. But everybody can merit the concept of mitzvahs. And that's why we are all righteous, because we do more mitzvahs. You might not become the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, and you might not become the philosopher of in history in the world, but you can do every mitzvah and not do any of it. Every single one of us. So we put on tefillin like Moshe Rabbeinu put on tefillin. But Moshe Rabbeinu's philosophy didn't put on tefillin. Self-understood his philosophy, and it was much deeper and greater. But the mitzvah is not to have philosophy. The mitzvah is to put on tefillin. And that's simple. And that every Jew could do, and every Jew should do. Because by him doing the mitzvah, he's connected to the Eibusher. This is that he's bound up with, vested with the light of Kesed. The Gemara says, every person that does a mitzvah, the Gemara expresses, you should stand up for. Because in essence, he's been bound with God. He's walking with God. Who Ratzon Baruch Hu, the will of God. Every mitzvah, he did one mitzvah. Even if he did one mitzvah, Allah has come for sure that every Jew is Malay mitzvahs kerimai. Every Jew is full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. So therefore, he's connected to the essence of God. Every Jew is connected to the essence of God. And once he's garmented in this garment, now when the neshama goes l'mayla, when the neshama goes above, after 120 years, he goes to Gan Eden. he can now delight in the delight of God because he has these garments. It's a pleasure through it which transcend even the level of kesed. In pnimis of derech mashal, which is metaphorically speaking, to pnimis is pleasant. That's the difference in kesed itself. In Rotzain, you have delight, you have will. So through doing the will of the Eibishter, through doing the will of God, and we clothe ourselves with the will of God, will ultimately merit to the delight of God. To the concept of delight. And which is the inner, the will of God, as we expressed before, is the outer expression of God. The tainug. Why does a person have that will? Because he has a tainug. That reveals his tainug. The will reveals his tainug. So why do we know? Why does God want us to do a mitzvah? Because he has a tainug in our mitzvah. The Eibishter wants to do a mitzvah because he has a delight in it. Even though it's explained elsewhere, the commandments are the pnimis, the innermost element of the supernal will. While here is explained that they are merely external aspects with it's an addiction, to where it explains actually the mitzvah is the delight. We're explaining over here the mitzvah is the will, which through the will of God it brings delight. So you should know that's the beauty now. That's what the Alter Rebbe is going to answer, which is the beauty of Chassidus and Kabbalah and spirituality in general, that everything is relative. So when it comes to, we really live with the Einstein's teaching of everything is relative. Because when it comes to spirituality, everything is relative. What's above and below is all relative. And that's why the neshama keeps having an aliyah. The neshama is above. Why you have an aliyah? But going to the point even above, what is higher, automatically the low one is relative to the higher one. So it's all aspect of relativity. The students of Kabbalah are well acquainted with the multitude of aspects and levels between every aspect and levels among various levels of holiness. So therefore, you're right. There's a certain concept in Torah that is the concept of tainug. There's a certain level in a mitzvah that's only the will. Everything is relative to what the situation is. So you're right. Ultimately, every mitzvah is a tainug of the Eibishter, but that's at a much deeper, higher level in the mitzvah. In the outer expression of a mitzvah, there's a concept of the tainug and the rotzin. There's a concept of the delight and the will in the mitzvah. So everything is relative. Therefore, you can have in Kabbalah things that are said the opposite or different levels, because it depends what you're talking about. It depends which level you're talking about. It's hard to do that in a physical thing, but in a spiritual realm, it's very easy to understand that everything is relative to comparison to the way it can be higher or the way it can be lower. As we know, the numerous acts of face-to-face, meaning since panim is related to pnimis, that's relative to a particular spiritual level. Another level is even more internal and nearer to the essence. So when you say panim Hashem, that might be in a very lower level. In a higher level of pnimis, in a higher level of inner, then the inner, what Hashem spoke about, is outer. That's why it says that in essence, that we learned this before, the Alter Rebbe said that even in Gan Eden, you have to go from one level of Gan Eden to another level again, you have to go through a mikveh. You have to go through a cleansing. But I'm a Gan Eden. But in comparison to the high level of Gan Eden, your lower Gan Eden was like Gehenna. Now, your lower level is not Gehenna. But in comparison to the higher, your lower level has no comparison to the higher level. So we have Gan Eden in Gan Eden in Gan Eden in Gan Eden. You have Pnimis in Pnimis in Pnimis in Pnimis. You have Achrayim, as Alter B'Chinetz Achrayim, L'Achrayim, in case. You have an outer of an outer of an outer of an outer. There's another expression that Alter Rebbe explains. It says that ain't tzaddik ba'aretz al shel yechta. There's no tzaddik that doesn't sin. Now that contradiction, we know what tzaddik doesn't sin. So what is the meaning of there's no tzaddik in the world doesn't sin? And the answer is because a tzaddik every day he has to have a new avodah. Every day he has to have a new service of God. And therefore yesterday's service is like a sin to today's service. If he doesn't go higher in the service of God, in the spiritual service of God, then yesterday is considered like a sin to today. But tzaddik has to go continue higher and higher. And if he doesn't go higher, then he's got a problem. Even though we're not talking about physical sin, we're talking about spiritual sin. As the Gemara says, like Moshe Rabbeinu and David Abel, whatever, that they sinned, that Chas V'Shalom, you say they sinned, in their level they sinned. If you understand who Moshe Rabbeinu was, you would understand they never sinned, never actually did an Aveda. Moshe Rabbeinu never did an Aveda, but he did something. What his level is considered a sin. Why? Because in spirituality, a lower level is a sin, so to say, to a higher level, even though it's not a sin. But it's in a comparison to a sin, it's a negative concept. So therefore, if you know Kabbalah, if you know Chassidus, there's inner to inner, there's outer to outer. There are numerous aspects of external to external, meaning the reverse without end. So thus, relative to the internal level of supernal will spoken about here, mitzvahs are only termed external. Whereas in other contexts, when compared to a lower level, they are deemed to be internal. So it depends what you're talking about. Depends what you're talking about. If you're talking about the way mitzvah is to the lower level, a mitzvah is in the essence of God. If we're talking about the way a mitzvah is to the light, then a mitzvah is external. And that's the way Chassidus and Kabbalah works, if you know Chassidus. Whatever above called commandments, 600 pillars of lights of Kesed, how does this agree with the previous statement of 600 garments? A mitzvah assigned to 600 soul powers. So now the Alter Rebbe has another question. He answered that question in the previous one. Now the Alter Rebbe has another question. We called it the pillars of light. And now we call it, what does it mean that the 613 commandments are the garments of the soul? The Rebbe now answers the 7 commandments of the sages, which bring it to total 620, are not self-sufficient mitzvahs, but are branches of scriptural commandments from which they respectively derive. The soul thus has 613 garments that derive from the 613 commandments. The rabbinical mitzvahs included. These garments guard the 613 powers of the soul. So even though the 620 lights, there's 613 commandments. There's 248 limbs and 365 sinews, which is 613. You have 620, Kesed is 620, but the 7 are incorporated, the Rabbanan, the rabbinical 7 are incorporated into the 613 Torah obligations. 7 precepts of the sages are not counted as commandments in themselves. They could never say so. The Torah says you're not allowed to add any commandments. So how does the rabbis add 7 when the Torah says you're not allowed to add anymore? You're not allowed to subtract. You're not allowed to add. So how did the rabbi say, you know what? It's not 613, it's 620. No, it's not 620, it's 613. But within the 613, the rabbi said there's another 7. But rather they derive an issue from the commandments of the Torah. And really the 620, the 7 are all incorporated in the 613. So in the particular 613, they ultimately come out of 620. Those are the 613 powers, aspects, and powers for the nefesh. So really, it's really only 613. Previously stated, the mitzvah are like 600 hollow pillars, and it comes to God in the neshama. The individual who perform the commandments is through these pillars that the soul arises to the greatness of heights, is bound up with the radiance of Kesed. Additionally, it is through the garments of the mitzvah 613, even though ultimately with the rabbi it's 620. But as he said, the 7 is part of the rabbinic Torah obligation. Mitzvah of the soul, behold the pleasantness of God. There's two things the mitzvah accomplishes. First of all, the mitzvah accomplishes that you connect to the essence of God. And number two, the mitzvah becomes a garment for you. And now when your neshama goes lamaila, can receive the pleasantness of God. Additionally, it's through the garments of the mitzvah that the soul is able to behold the pleasantness of God and to experience the pleasurable thirst that transcends even the essence of Kesed. It goes to the concept, it transcends will. It goes, it reaches up to the light of God. It's higher than even the concept of love. That completes the Tanya of today. Today is the 20th day of the month, which is chapter 97 to chapter 103 in Tehillim. Chapter 97 to chapter 103, and you would accomplish the mitzvah, you accomplished the chitas, do the chitas. I wish you all a wonderful day. Midshem, we'll see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Continue.